Dear students, hope you are all well. So today we will begin with a chapter in geography. The name of the chapter is Weather and Climate. Let's move forward. So, students, you must have noticed that sometimes in the place you live, days are very rainy, sometimes they are windy, sometimes it's sunny, and sometimes it's foggy. So, what exactly changes in all these days that sometimes the conditions are different? And you may notice within a day or within an hour, the condition completely change. Well, what changes is the weather of the place. Okay, let's move forward. So, weather is defined as change in condition of a place, which may change from hour to hour, day to day, or even minute to minute. So sometimes you may have a sunny day. Sometimes it will be partly cloudy, partly sunny. Sometimes you may face thunderstorms. Sometimes it may snow in your place if you live in a hill station. And sometimes it may be pretty clear at night. So sometimes during different times of the day or during different times of the year, you would see that different types of conditions are there. And when these conditions are changing, and when you observe these changes in day to day, minute to minute, or hour to hour, then these changes are usually weather changes. Okay? So, weather of a place is weather changes from minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, or season to season, depending on what? Depending on the temperature, rainfall, and wind condition. So, as these conditions keep on changing from day to day or maybe hour to hour, then the weather will keep on changing. That is why sometimes you have sunny days, sometimes rainy, and sometimes snowy too. Let's move forward. So, as you can see here, you have a climate zone map of India. So, here you will see that this area has a different climate, this area has a different climate, this area has a different climate, this has different, and this has a different climate. So, all these places have different climates. So, rather than weather, these places have different climates. That means, so the usual conditions are around the year in this area is different than this area. And these areas are called climatic zone, different climatic zones. So different areas have different climates during the year. Let's move forward. For example, this zone has the Rajasthan state. So this area's climatic zone is very hot and dry. Now, as you know, this place, that is Rajasthan, is very hot. So this area is very hot and dry. That is, most time in this year, this place faces hot and dry temperature. Now let's come to this place, that is Maharashtra. Here, the climate is hot and wet. That means it receives hot temperatures as well as lots of rainfall. So, this area has a hot and wet climate. Now, what about this? That is Jammu and Kashmir. Well, it is usually very cold out there. So, while there may be days which are sunny, it is cold in Jammu and Kashmir, but they have sunny days as well. There may be days which are sunny, but usually this place has a lot of cool temperature. Usual temperature of this year is very cold. As a result, Jammu and Kashmir is a cold climate. So climate of the place is defined by the usual temperature which the place faces. Let's move forward. So the climate, what's the definition of a climate? So the climate is the weather conditions prevailing in an area in general or over a long period of time. So you see, generally or over a long period of time, weather condition a place faces is the climate of that place. So sometimes weather may be cloudy or sometimes it may be rainy, but usually it is very hot out there. Then it has a hot climate. Similarly, sometimes there may be sunny days, but usually it is very cold. Then the climate of that place is called as a cold climate, as we took an example of the place of Jammu and Kashmir. Let's move forward. So, for example, in Rajasthan, usually it's very hot and dry. Look at the first picture. The climate is very hot and dry. But it does not mean that it does not receive any rainfall. Okay? The weather is hot and dry, but it receives rainfall as well. Sometimes it rains too. Look at the second picture. So when it rained, the weather of the place is rainy at that point of time. Okay, the weather at that point of time is rainy. That is on that day, weather is rainy. But what is the climate of Rajasthan? Usually it's hot and dry. So the climate is hot and dry while the weather of that particular day was a rainy day. Okay, let's move forward. Now let's talk about another place, that is Shimla. Now Shimla has a very cold climate. That is, usually it's very cold in Shimla. But there are some days in summer when it faces rare hot days. Now first picture is the picture where normally how Shimla is very cold. And the second picture is a picture where it is a hot day. Now, these rare hot days do not define Shimla. Okay, now when you talk about Shimla, it's a very cold place. What defines Shimla is the usual cold weather. That is, usually it's very cold out there. So, some rare hot days does not define Shimla. So, that day we can say that day had a rare hot weather. But usually Shimla has a cold climate. Let's move forward. So, how are weather and climate different? Let us see that. Now, see first climate. Climate is what you expect. That is, you expect January's to be cold. Okay? And weather. Weather is what you get. So, there may be days when you get rainfall instead of cold weather. Okay, that is the weather of this place. So you see, weather and climate are different. Climate is what you expect of a place, and weather is what you may get on a certain day. Another difference is that, look at the second point, weather can change from hour to hour. So, for example, right now it's rainy at your place, and in half an hour it may be sunny. So, weather can change within an hour. But when we talk about climate, look at the second point of the climate, then it is an average of 30 years and it may change only slightly from year to year. For example, as I said, in January it is cold, so temperature will be low, and this has been calculated over 30 years and more, or less the temperature will remain low in this particular time because that is the climate of that place. Now, when we talk about weather, of a place, it is usually, look at the third point, the condition of a certain place and a particular day. So, if the place changes, the weather may change, and if the day changes, the weather may change. But in the case of climate, it is usually for a region and time of the year. So, for example, if we are talking about January, it is cold. That is, in that time of the year, it will be cold. And usually in the region of, let's say, Madhya Pradesh or Bihar, it will be cold because that is the climate of that place. But when we talk about weather in the same places in two different cities, the weather may be different. In some places it is raining, while some places it is cloudy. So weather may change even for short distance and even for short period of time, but climate will remain same for a larger region and a larger time period. Let's move forward. Next is elements of weather. Now weather depends on these five things. They are temperature, air pressure, wind, moisture, and precipitation. Okay, so let's see what they are. First is temperature. Now, as you know, the temperature is the degree of hotness or coldness. It is measured using a thermometer. You can see a thermometer. It is measured using a thermometer. And as you can see over here, the sun and the earth is here. Okay, look at the first picture. As you see these arrows, the equator is the hottest. Okay, the equator is the hottest. Why? Because of the sun rays are directly hitting the earth at the equator. If we go higher and higher up, these rays starts bending at angles. So it gets cooler and cooler. As we go higher and higher, it gets cooler and cooler. As we go higher, same year, look at the second picture. Okay? Here, the more we go up in altitude, the more the temperature gets lower. So the temperature is higher near the sea level. Let's move forward. The next is, now what is air pressure? Now you know air has weight as it creates pressure. Now this is called air pressure. Now you can see the clock type shape in this image. It is a barometer. Air pressure is measured using this barometer machine. And as you see over here, as you go higher and higher up, air pressure becomes lower and lower. And as you go deeper and deeper, the air pressure becomes more. Let's move forward. So now let's see the winds. As air moves from high pressure to low pressure areas, this moving air is called wind. The wind vane helps us in determining the direction of wind. The wind speed is measured by anemometer, as you can see over here in the image. So the wind is measured by this instrument. Let's move forward. Now we will go to humidity. The moisture in the air is called humidity. Now as you know, the atmosphere contains vapor, that is water vapor. If there is more amount of water vapor in the air, more moisture and more humidity. Now, Mumbai is a coastal city. That is why there is more water vapor in the air, which means there is more humidity, right? We feel more hot. So, water vapor in the air, as it condenses to form water, it falls as rain. Let's move forward. And the last one, let us see, that is, what is precipitation? Water vapor in the atmosphere condenses into water droplets or snow particles. They are showering on the earth is called precipitation. Example, we get rainfall, snowfall or hailstorm, etc. These are all forms of precipitation. So there are five elements of weather that we learned. What is that? Temperature, air pressure, winds, humidity, and precipitation. So weather is described on the basis of the conditions prevailing at the given time, while climate is described on the basis of conditions prevailing over a longer period of time. Okay, let's move forward. That's your homework. The first question is elements of dash are taken into consideration while describing the climate. Second one is the humidity in the atmosphere is called as dash. And the last one is what are the elements of weather? That's all for now. Your chapter ends over here. We will learn the next chapter in the next video. Thank you for listening, children. Goodbye. Take care.